If you have the ability to, you need to stop working and you need to focus on recovery. How's it going, guys? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, I'm going to be talking about working with CFS. Now, there's two different areas I want to talk about. One is if you're already currently working and you feel like you have CFS or a hypersensitive nervous system issue, how do you go about that? Like, do you completely quit work? Do you move to part-time? How do you explain to people what you're going through? How does that work? And also, what happens if you're not currently working right now, but you're thinking you're at that point where maybe you can start introducing work. So I'll go over the first one. Now, before going into this, I want to share some of my stories. So if you don't already know me, my name is Miguel. When I was 19 to about the age of 24, I dealt with some really bad CFS. I had really bad symptoms at my worst. I think I had over 40 symptoms, completely bedridden, hospitalized, couldn't even roll over in bed. And I went from that point to learning how to use a wheelchair, learning to use a walker, then walking on my own 2 feet, to the point now where I can pretty much live a normal life. So growing up, I was very athletic, played lots of sports. My body completely hit a wall. Luckily, I was able to come out of it relatively quickly in about 5 years, but that felt like a lifetime. And honestly, I think it could have been a lot shorter if I knew what I know now. And that's all the information that I share on this channel. Now, when I first got sick, I was working as a personal trainer. I was working a lot. I was essentially burning the candle on both ends. I was very stressed, and it just took stressor after stressor after stressor to pretty much just wipe me out. Now, a lot of people who watch my channel, they were also kind of pushing their limits, and they were in a very stressful spot in life, and something happened, some kind of stressor. Maybe someone passed away, or a big life event happened. Maybe they got COVID. Maybe they got a virus. Something happened where your stress threshold limit was reached, and then you eventually got sick, and for some reason, your body just never bounced back. And so when I was working, I kept trying to push through my illness. I didn't know it was this serious at the time. I initially started feeling lots of anxiety, lots of insomnia, lots of fatigue and brain fog, but I just kept trying to work through it. And I'll tell you right now that if you are at that place where you are working and you're feeling these symptoms and they're not getting any better, and in fact, if you compare the last 6 to 12 months, you've only been getting worse or staying the same, then you probably have to pull back on the work. In fact, not probably, you definitely have to pull back on the work, at least to part-time or something more flexible, so that way you can prioritize recovery. You overall just need to lower the stimulus on your nervous system. And if you don't do that, then it's going to be really difficult to recover. It's not impossible, it's just going to be much, much more difficult. So the people who have joined the Recovery Jumpstart program, which is a program I've created to help people completely recover from CFS, if they have the ability to, if they can go on sick leave or get long-term disability, I always recommend it, because then they're actually going to have the best chance of recovery, and it's going to happen a lot sooner rather than later. So if you are working a job right now, try to at least scale it back to part-time. If you have the ability to, you need to stop working and you need to focus on recovery. You need to give your body space to get good sleep, to stop being in this sympathetic state, to being wired, to running on adrenaline and things like that. You need to take yourself out of stressful situations. It can be very difficult to do that. You probably worked at your job for a good amount of time. The last thing you want to do is pull back and give in to the illness. It might feel like you're actually losing to it, but this is where you have short-term pain for long-term gain. You need to prioritize your health, because yes, you may feel like you need to keep up with a certain job, but if it gets to the point where your health just completely hits a wall, it's going to be hard, and it won't be a choice anymore, but your body will demand you to stop working. So much better to do it when you actually have a choice. You don't want to wait until it gets really bad and your body is not letting you even leave your house, because that's the point I got to. So I wish I kind of just dialed it back earlier. I didn't think it could get that bad, but if you are on a downward trajectory, you need to pull back immediately. So that's number one for people who are currently working and they're trying to decide, should they pull back or should they not? Now, you also need to let the people at your work know what's going on. You have to tell them that you have a nervous system issue. If you have COVID, there's a lot of people who watch my channel and they have COVID. Tell them you have long COVID. It's a lot more of an acceptable excuse than saying something like you have CFS, because nobody knows what CFS is. Most people know what long COVID is. And if they search it up, they'll know exactly what it is. And it's an actual diagnosis from doctors. You can get a note written. So it's a lot easier to explain it to managers or bosses or for people to understand that way. It's more socially acceptable. If you don't have long COVID, if you just have CFS, then you just need to be completely upfront with your work and tell them, hey, I'm dealing with this thing right now. I won't be able to perform at the level that you want me to. So in order for this to be a good working relationship, I want to be able to give you guys what you need from me. But if I'm working full time, I won't be producing the quality of work that is expected of me. That's just the truth. So if I work maybe half of the time or very part-time, I'll be able to at least deliver quality work. But at this rate, I can't sustain this. At this rate, I'm gonna end up sick. I won't be able to come to work at all if this continues. So you need to be very upfront. And a lot of people are scared to tell their employers that, or the people at their work, but they will actually respect you for that. They will respect you for being upfront. I can't tell you how many times there are people in the program and they tell their work what's going on, and the work actually appreciates it. Because if you put yourself in the business owner's shoes or the manager's shoes, they would rather you be honest with them and tell them, and they would understand it. And if they don't understand it, if they get mad, then they never cared about you in the first place. So there's no point trying to basically kill yourself to work for a company that doesn't really care about your health. And I had to deal with this. I was working so hard at the personal training job I was at. I was working in a big box gym here in Vancouver, Canada, and literally blood, sweat, and tears I worked. And my managers were profiting off me. And I'm sure they were super happy. I was like the perfect employee, always showing up early, always staying way later, always going above and beyond what was expected of me. But fast forward down the road, when I get sick and I come back to them after a year and say, hey, I've been sick for a year. Can I get some back pay on the time I was missed? Because I've been paying into long-term disability. Turns out there was some loophole in the contracts where they pretty much said, yeah, we're not going to pay you. That's not how this company works, even though I was paying into that long-term disability. So I got screwed over, essentially. I got left out to dry. So I sacrificed blood, sweat, and tears for a company, and I thought the managers cared about me. Turns out they didn't really. And if they did, then it was really just the company, the corporation itself. They didn't care at all. And there were so many other people in my position who also got sick. There was actually a class action lawsuit. And I'm not gonna say which company this was, but there was a class action lawsuit. And then the company folded, so they didn't have to pay anybody. It was just ridiculous. But essentially, you can work your butt off and you can sacrifice everything, your health, thinking that you need to keep this job, but in reality, they need you more than you need them most of the time. Obviously, there's gonna be times where you need money. And in that case, do whatever you can to stay above water. And staying above water, this leads me to the next topic I want to talk about. It's what do you do if you're starting to get better and you feel like you can start working? There's a few things you really want to keep in mind when you're going back to work. Number one, it has to be part-time, right? It cannot be full-time. You definitely cannot jump into things full-time because you're essentially going to be biting off way more than you can chew, way more than you can handle. So when you do have these flare-ups and adjustment periods, you won't have that space to kind of take a step back and let your body recalibrate. So one, it absolutely has to be part-time. And if you can, it would be optimal for it to be flexible hours, right? And even better if you can work from home. So those are like the three criteria. If you can get those three things, you're golden. Like it's gonna be the perfect segue back to work. Obviously that's not always the case, but that's what it was for me. And that really, really worked. And I see it in a lot of other people. If you can find something that's part-time, that's flexible, and that is work from home, right? So it might be doing an odd job like data entry, or not just data entry, anything from home. There's a lot of jobs you can work off of your computer from. You would just need to get blue light blocking glasses and even wear shades looking at a screen. That's what I did. So how I got back into work when I was getting better was I got into videography, because what had happened was I was completely bedridden for about 8 months. At the time, I couldn't look at my phone too much. So I was living in my head a lot of these times. I had a lot of visions of what I wanted to do for the future, where I wanted to go. I would listen to music and imagine music videos to that music of me doing things. So by the time I got better, I had all these visions in my mind of things I wanted to do. I was like, man, I need to bring these visions to life. Let me pick up a camera and see what I can make with it. So I started making videos for fun. And the great thing about that was it was a hobby for me. So I really enjoyed it. And when you're doing things that you enjoy, you're not really worried while you're doing them. So it really helped me get out of that anxious state, that fear-based mindset and just panic. So in addition to my doctor teaching me all this knowledge, it was also doing something that I really enjoyed, doing something that I was passionate about. So if you can find something like that, that is one of the best ways you can start going back to work. So I started creating videos, I started posting them online, then people started hiring me, and I just got a little bit busier here and there. And the great thing about that is, one, yes, it was very part-time. Two, is very flexible. Three, most of it was work from home. So if I did go out and film something, I'd film and then I'd go home and edit it. So it was very flexible hours. The thing is, in the beginning, I think I was making maybe $1,000 a month, maybe less actually. And in reality, to the average person, that's extremely stressful. And my credit cards were completely maxed out because one, I hadn't worked for many, many months. Two, I didn't have any insurance from the company that I was at. Even though I was paying into it, like I said earlier, I got kind of screwed over. So I didn't get any money from that. My credit cards were maxed out because I was doing tons of supplements and IV treatments prior to me getting completely bedridden. So all my money went there. Yeah, looking from the outside in, it's a really stressful situation. And I was just super grateful to be out in the world again. I was just very appreciative to be able to stand up and walk around and eat food and not just be dying in a hospital. That's what it felt like. So everything after that moment when I got out of the hospital was a bonus. So I was happy to do part-time work and flexible work. And even though my credit cards were maxed out, I really just told myself, money is money. It comes and goes. Eventually, all this debt won't be here. And thankfully, within 2 years, I was completely out of debt. I didn't owe any money on my credit cards, but it was a pretty stressful time. I'm not gonna lie. There were times when I really didn't have any money for anything. So the videography gigs paid for some stuff, but it was rough at first. But if you are deciding to go back to work, those are the 3 main criteria I would say. Actually, I would add 4. So number 1, do something you at least somewhat enjoy, at least a little bit, right? You don't want to do something you hate because that's just going to lead to more stress. And it's a one-way ticket to just being upset, right? It's a one-way ticket to not being happy. So find something you at least enjoy a little bit. If you find something you love, that's golden. Number 2, find something that's part-time. Number 3, if it's flexible hours, even better. And number 4, if it's work from home, even better, right? And then when you do start going back to work, if you have all those 4 criteria, then just make sure that you're splitting up your hours. So don't just start working on a screen for like 2, 3, 4 hours straight at a time. You want to make sure you're breaking it up into chunks, even if you have to set timers for your screen time. So set timers for 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And in between those timers, make sure you're getting up and going outside, getting some fresh air, balancing out the cognitive functioning with the physical functioning. And that's something we talked about more in the program. We actually help people transition going back to work and then help them in that sense, right? So that way they don't overdo it. But that's something we walk them through. But there's the breaking it up into chunks, but also getting something like blue light blocking glasses. You could get cheap ones on Amazon, depending on where you're at, for $20, and it would really help. Like that saved me from so many headaches. My first year of videography, I didn't have blue light blocking glasses and my eyes really hurt all the time looking at a screen. I used to have headaches and stuff. But as soon as I got blue light blocking glasses, my capacity for screen time literally went up by at least 5 times. And then it's to the point where I don't really look at a screen without my blue light blocking glasses. These are prescription glasses, but these have blue light blocking factors built into them. So it's like 2 birds, 1 stone. But if you can get blue light blocking glasses, definitely get those. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I dropped a bunch of tips on what to do if you want to get back to working, or if you're working right now and you're dealing with CFS. These are some pointers that really helped me, and there's stuff that I shared with you that I wish I knew while I was working. So I hope this really helps you. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know your biggest takeaway from this video, and also any advice you have for other people who are going through the same journey, because we can all learn from each other. We're all a community here. So comment down below some advice that can help other people. If you did enjoy this content, make sure to hit that like button, hit the link down below if you want to apply for our Recovery Jumpstart program. So this is where we can actually help walk people through their specific plan of recovery, because the principles of recovery are exactly the same all across the board, but people's situations are a little bit different. So that's where we can come in and look at your situation, look at your symptoms, look at what you're doing, and we can make some tweaks. We can actually give you an actual plan So you know exactly what you should be focusing on, and we'll help you get better. So there's no other program online that goes this in depth with you, that walks you through this journey. You get to work directly with the coaches, myself, and the other coaches in the program. We have a private group chat where you can reach out to us any weekdays. You also get access to the group coaching calls, right, in the small groups. So you do feel like you're part of a team. If you did want to get some extra help, you can apply down below. You go through a questionnaire and we'll hop on a call if you are a good fit, because honestly, the last thing I want you to do is spend any more money or waste any more money on things that aren't working. So I do want to make sure that this is a really good fit for you. We're only going to bring you on board if we actually truly believe that we can help you. And if it doesn't work, then there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So whatever stage you're at in your recovery, we can absolutely help you because we've been through it ourselves. We know what it's like to go from absolute rock bottom to living a normal life. So if you did want extra help, hit that link down below. We can help you. As always, remember, you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. I'll see you in the next video.